Hi everyone, this is Kyle with K-Debate making another video. This one's going to be on something I was thinking about earlier today. That is sound bits, sound clips, and things like that. The media's job is to inform you on the goings-on of the world, important news, and generally informing you of stuff that you should know. But what media actually does is try to get ratings. So entertainment news started happening, and things like the BBC is considered one of the most legitimate news sources in the world, where Fox News and things like not the Onion. The Onion's actually a parody. What's that one in England? It's not called The Sun. Um, it's the first tabloid news in the world. Um, it's not news. They make stuff up. I'm not saying Fox News makes stuff up, but they definitely have a twist. And most news broadcasts do. They have an agenda where that's not what their job is supposed to be. I mean, when you have an agenda on news, which is factual, then you start twisting things to your agenda. And people don't know that because you're not saying that. So you have to understand where they stand politically before you can even start getting your news from them, and that's just it's a needless complication. And that's where sound bits and sound clips come from, at least in this regard. What is a sound bit or a sound clip? It is when the news doesn't have enough time to show the entire interview or the entire um, conversation or the entire event, so they show you the important parts. You know, in a 2-hour discussion, they talked about this, and this was this guy's stance. So they show you that tiny little clip, and they just expanded on that during whatever conversation. So you don't really have to watch the rest of it because we just told you what it was all about. Something just popped up on my laptop. There. So a sound clip or a sound bit is used to not generalize, but compress the entire argument into one or two sentences. And that's usually from one side or the other side, or just from whoever is the most important speaker at the time, or who said the most outlandish thing. So the news eats that up because people love that stuff, and it gives them more ratings, more viewers, more money. So money is the driving factor for news now, instead of news, most of the time. That's why they call it entertainment news. That's why they usually have attractive people doing the news. Not always, but I mean, generally, they really do. There's a lot of like weather women that are just like blonde model people. Not all the time. Again, I can't say that all the time, but you see it. You'll notice it if you really look. How many news anchors are actually attractive people that are more opinionated than they are factual? I mean, I watched Fox, and they were reading the tabloids on the news. Tabloids are not real. They never are. They actually are not real. I don't know why on one of the most viewed news programs in the world was reading a tabloid on the news as news. First of all, it wasn't their journalism. Second of all, it's a tabloid, which people know are not real, and yet they thought it was. And then they don't spend any time on actual news. So it's messed up all around. Okay, so anyway, back to sound bits. Uh, I just explained what a sound bit is. Why are sound bits unfair? Because most sound bits are taken out of context because you cannot have the context without the entire conversation. The most prominent one I saw was obviously on YouTube. You're going to see the most controversial or inflammatory sound bits because they're not just the ones that got on the news, they're the ones that got on the news and somebody put on YouTube because it was so outlandish, and then it got the most views and I was able to find it, because if it doesn't have a lot of views it's hard to find. um, and that one was I believe it was Obama. It might have been somebody else asking for from Fox News, saying that I believe it was Obama. It might have been one of Obama's cabinet or running mates or something like that. Wanting, yeah, it was one of his supporters, Obama's cabinet, Supreme Court judge. I think it was the Supreme Court judge he appointed. No, you'll have to look it up. But I watched it a few weeks ago. It was of him saying he wanted um, reconciliation for slavery, I believe, where they give them stuff back, where they pay for the wrongs that have been done to them. Reprimand, reconciliation, something. Anyway, it was where you give them stuff. It's like what we're trying to do with what we tried to do with the Native Americans by giving them land. It's we took things from you, and now we have to compensate now, even though the person we wronged is not the person that we're giving the stuff to, technically. So they showed the sound bit, and it sounded like that's what he was saying. It was like, yeah, that's totally what he just said. The white guys have to pay for what they did, probably. And I was like, okay, that sounds accurate. And then the thing I was watching went and showed the actual conversation that he had, and it had nothing to do with that. So his answer had nothing to do with the sound bit. The sound bit was him explaining something. So that's why it's unfair. It's like you can make somebody say anything you want with a sound bit, because generally it's a very long conversation. They're going to look exactly the same throughout all of it, and you just have to cut 2 seconds out, 5 seconds out, or not cut it at all and just not tell people what the rest is. So your agenda is so easy to manipulate what you're trying to manipulate. It's like if I were to have an hour-long conversation with somebody, you watch my videos, you know what I'm talking about. I talk very, very long-winded. You can take 5 minutes of that, something I said, without the context of what I was saying, show that to somebody else after setting it up with what you want them to take the context as, and they will. They will. They'll hear what you said, watch the 5 minute clip or whatever out of the hour conversation, say, hey, that's pretty messed up that what he just said in the context you gave me instead of the context I had. And that's why they're so powerful, and why the media, well, first of all, the media likes them because they're short. You can just 5 seconds, 10 seconds, but it's like several hours of conversation. You cannot get the context in that. It's not fair. It's like, but I guess the politicians kind of do the same thing with their political platforms, where it's like a slogan. I mean, that's not their platform. That's just the most prominent thing they want people to remember associated with them. Sound bits are pretty much the same thing, except for the news to spin something. Now, how to avoid sound bits. I was trying to figure that out earlier today. I only spent maybe 10 minutes thinking about it. And the only way I can see a sound bit even remotely working is if you never say anything to anyone, record it. Another one is if you're worried about them splicing together two different things that you said, always wear something different. Or continuously change how you're standing massively during an interview so that people know. Or just, what I was thinking of is just carry a clock. Just a little clock right here that people can see. That just, they can see when it's being spliced together. It's like, first if it's 5 minutes ago, and then it's 5 minutes. It's like, okay, they obviously spliced that. I can see that working slightly. But usually they take it all from one clip. It's like one sentence or two sentences you say in a row without the context of everything else. Is like, you can't defend against that. The only way to do it is to really, really, really be careful about your wording, but that's not fair either, because you shouldn't have to worry about somebody spending, a week finding something to twist that you said instead of you worrying about what you're actually talking about. Because it's obvious the person you're talking to will have more context than the person watching the clip later. Unless that person is really studying whatever you're doing, because most of the time they're political debates or they're a discussion with somebody that knows what you're talking about. So somebody coming along 2 weeks later or a month later or even the next day saying, hey, this could be taken out of context, I'm going to do that, and then using it for something that they want to use it for. The news has people that just do that. That's their job. Find stuff that's outlandish and entertaining. And I'm going to just go out and say that I don't like Fox News very much. I grew up watching it, and I did find that it really was more entertainment than it was news. That's fine they say they're entertainment, but a lot of the times they also say they're news when they're just being entertaining. And it's misinformation in a lot of ways, and I think that's not fair to the general public that trusts it. That's one of the biggest things that news is supposed to have, is integrity and trust. And I think that Fox News is starting to lose that. I think a lot of news stations are, not just Fox, but that's the easiest one to say because it's also the one that has the most obvious agenda. Other ones have agendas too. I'm not saying they don't. I know that mainstream media around the globe is starting to get driven, just like here, by money, by getting ratings, and that's a problem. That's a major problem. I'm not saying that they don't credit. They actually crack big cases and stuff like that. That's good. That's what the media is supposed to do. Also, is supposed to keep governments and businesses and people, from just going crazy and doing whatever the heck they want. And it keeps more order. That's what public press is supposed to be able to do. They look into things that are kind of shady, and they find out, hey, there's a scam going over here, and then stuff gets brought to light, and that's how the media is supposed to work. Just like the police, except it's usually privately owned. But sound bits are not cool. Sound bits are bad, and I worry that people are going to use my stuff out of context years from now. I'm making all these in the digital era. Things don't go away, so these videos are going to last forever, and somebody's going to say, hey, this guy hates this or likes this and he shouldn't, 5 years from now. The more popular that you are, the more people look into your stuff, and people are obviously going to find this. I have my name all over it. So if I ever become political, I'm going to have to worry about what I say in these videos. And that's not good, because I shouldn't have to worry about what somebody several years from now is going to take a misconception and plaster it all over the place and say that, hey, look at this guy supports or doesn't support what he now supports or doesn't support. And 5 years is a long time. Things change. Something that just look at the way I look terrible right now. So Obviously, if somebody says, look, he doesn't care what he looks like, or he used to be a bum, or whatever, it's like, yes, I didn't shave. So what? I'm making these videos from home. Yes, I have some professionalism, and yes, I should take care of myself more, but I'm making these videos as information. I shouldn't have to be presenting myself in the most attractive way possible. I just find that these videos, I'm making this video, it's 7:44 in the morning, and I haven't even had breakfast yet. So this was something I was thinking about. This is something I wanted to make a video about. I didn't want to procrastinate. If I started doing other things, I might not have made this video. So that's why I think this information is important for you guys to have, even if only 10 people watch it. People have not been watching my videos. Please watch my videos. Spread them all over the place. Make them go viral. I don't care. Wait, yes, I do care. Make them go viral. I doubt they will until I start getting into controversial stuff again, which I don't want to do. But eventually I'm going to have to touch on those subjects anyway, so I guess I'll do that. Not for ratings, but just to get my information out there. Oh well. I guess that's it for now. Take care and have a nice day.